Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching. Yesterday, I went to a site called Gungywamp in Groton, Connecticut. It's right by the sub base. And right off the bat, I'm going to start with there is a whole lot of bullshit out on the internet and in documentaries about this site. And it's largely due to a group called the Gungywamp Society in the 60s who really, really wanted this to be a Celtic site. And once again, I will link Mike Luoma's video about Yankee lore and why we always want these indigenous sites to be Celtic at the end of this video. So go watch that after this. But this site is indigenous. It's probably Niantic, and that's largely due to some turtle effigies on the site and the importance of the turtles to them. Pequots were also in this area, but after this site was built, most likely. So the area is absolutely gorgeous. We know that I love swamps, but it was absolutely beautiful there. At the time the site was built, it would not have looked like this, though. The land was managed by controlled burns, so it was more like a prairie. And today it is, you have to hike through a swamp to get there. And the water level is thanks to the beavers who have done a lot of work here on this site. So this is, you could see that site marker in the front. That is from the excavations in the 60s. This is a stone chamber. Here is a better angle of it. I believe there was a lot of damage done by the excavations in the 60s. They aren't sure if this one ever had a roof, but there were some stone slabs around the site that look like they could have been a roof at one point. It does face east, the same as the other stone chamber on the property. It's believed to be ceremonial, indigenous, not in the best shape of any stone chamber I've seen. And throughout the property, there are stone walls kind of sneaking through everywhere. It's pretty impressive. This rock pile here, I think, is the result of the excavation in the 60s as well. But there is also a colonial structure on this site, which is the Adams farm home. And here is what's left of the foundation. This was from the 1700s. The Adams family purchased the property, built a home here. They had 10 children. And I'm not sure if you can tell, but that is not a big house to have 10 children in. And that right there is the hearth, or what would have been the hearth. This was excavated, and they know a lot from the tax records also. And this would have been probably an animal pen. It looks a lot like a town pound, like you would see. There's one in Lebanon where I grew up in, and there's one in Old Sturbridge Village as well. They most likely had sheep on the property. They could have, it's not really a good area to have cattle, so probably not cattle, maybe like a cow for milk, but and it does have a stall in there. And here we have the turtle effigy. This is the alternate theory is that this was a tan bark mill. Looking at it, it's not. I don't see how it could be. I am not an expert in tan bark mills, but from the pictures and diagrams I've looked at, it just doesn't fit this. And that there's Al standing inside of it for size reference. And this was a indigenous stone wall that was pointing towards a trailhead. and that is the 40-foot cliff that is on one side of this site. And that valley would have been created by glaciers. And this stone wall here was actually mistaken for an indigenous fortification. They thought this was possibly military at one point, but it was almost definitely ceremonial. And of course, the niche built into the stone wall where the little people would have lived. Here we have another stone chamber, also facing east. Much better shape here. The reason why I think that the first one probably had a roof is because all the other ones on the site do. I could be wrong, but everything seems to point to that one having a roof. And here we have what looks to me to be a snapping turtle head immediately. And other people think so as well. And especially when you look at the rest of this, this is an opening for the sunlight in a stone chamber. This is right behind that turtle head boulder. And that's the head from another angle. The mound, which would be like the shell of it, is where the stone chamber is. And here we have the stone chamber. There is actually a chamber within the chamber. And if you go to my Facebook page, you can see a video of that. And I think it's during the spring solstice, the morning sun goes through that opening I showed you and into the second stone chamber. So when you go into this one on the right-hand side, there is an opening on the bottom. It's a pretty big chamber. I'd say it's over 6 feet to the back. Don't worry about the construction sign. It was totally fine and safe for me to be in there. And this was also a stone chamber. It did have a roof. Again, they took the roof off in the 60s to excavate and never put it back on. They found a few things on the site, stone tools that are in Yale, I believe now. But for the most part, it was a pretty clean site, like no day-to-day items or anything like that. Again, we have Al for size reference. This is also, I just want to take a minute to note, this is Al's favorite boulder in the whole site. And I just love the way that ferns growing along a stone wall looks. Here we have a standing stone row. And there's kind of along the site, there's almost like a trail. Well, there is a trail, and it was, a Native American trail that was then turned into a colonial road. And all along the site, there were ghost pipes growing. So that was pretty cool. So this stone is supposed to have a petroglyph of a bird. I could not see it at all. Maybe you can. This is Al trying to show me, but I still couldn't see it. And I found this stone wall interesting. The undulation of it. It's definitely intentional. It is damaged in some spots, but you can see that hill that's still intact is very intentional. I've read that this was to show in which directions the spirits moved, but I haven't read that in enough places for me to kind of take that as a fact. So just going to throw that out there. And it does point to this site, which has, you can see here, boulders with stones on top, a stone prayer, which I thought was known well wide archaeologically. Al said that they didn't know what it was or what it was called, but he said what he had heard from the state archaeologist, it was like a representational cemetery, which is it kind of makes sense, adds up a little bit. And this is the last piece that we looked at, and they aren't sure if that opening on the bottom is for water to get through. I don't think it is, looking at the site. Um, it's also speculated it was canoe shaped and those stones on top would be people in the canoe. I don't know about that either. It would be a lot of people to be in that canoe, but interesting anyway. And overall, just a beautiful site. I highly recommend going if you're able to, but don't take everything that is out there as a fact.